Hey y'all, Crystal here from ChristaCoDesign. Today I'm going to show you how to make the Belinda boat neck top, which is a lovely lightweight top for summer. And I'm using this beautiful Barocco Comfort Decay yarn, which is a nylon and acrylic blend. And my Furls Ergonomic Odyssey hook in pink. I'm using a 3.5 millimeter size E for this yarn. Okay, we're making a garment, so be sure to check your gauge. I've got a whole video on that, so I'll link it up here now. Okay, we'll start with chaining for extra small 80, small 92, medium 100, large 112, extra large 120, 2x 132, 3x 140, 4x 152, and 5x 162. Okay, in the 5th chain from your hook, we're going to place 2 double crochets. I am working to the back of my chains. And these skip stitches are going to count as a double crochet. Our first stitch is here, and then our 2 double crochets we just made. Right next to these 2, in the very next chain, we're going to place 2 more. So here we have our stitch that we're going to use, 2 double crochets next to 2 double crochets. Then we're going to skip 2 chains and work, getting my chain all twisty here, 1, 2, skip 2 chains and work 2 double crochets in the next. In the very next stitch, we're going to work 2 double crochets. Okay, now we repeat that across. Skip 2, work 2 double crochets and 2 double crochets. Keep repeating that until we have 2 chains left. All right, so on my last 2 chains, I'm going to skip 1 and just place a double crochet in the very last one. Okay, so row 2, we turn. We're going to start with a chain 3. I'll do an alternative chain 3, which I can link up for you in the description if you need more details on how to do this. Skip the first double crochet, place 2 in the second. Then place 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So we're stacking them. Now we're going to skip 2 double crochets and work 2 into the next double crochet. Now we'll work 2 double crochets into the next stitch. Skip 2 double crochets, work 2 double crochets into the next stitch. And 2 double crochets into the one right after that. Skip 2, work 2 in the same stitch. And we're going to work 2 again in the very next stitch. Skip 2, we're on our last set here. Work 2 double crochets and try that again. And work 2 double crochets in the next one. Okay, so now we're left with 2 stitches, our last double crochet and then our chains, which count as a double crochet. So in this very top one here, we're going to work our last double crochet of the row. Okay, so that's row 2. Now the rest of this swatch and the rest of your garment is just a repeat of row 2. Okay, so row 3 is a repeat of row 2. Chain 3, skip the next double crochet, 2 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, then skip 2 stitches, 2 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and repeat that until you have 2 stitches left. Then just skip 1 and DC in the last and turn. So you're going to keep repeating that. Okay, so now we're just going to repeat row 2 until your panel length is, for extra small, 20.5 inches and small, 20.5. For medium and large, 21.5 inches. For extra large and 2X, 22 inches long. For 3 and 4X, 23 inches long. And for 5X, 23.5 inches long. You can make this longer or shorter as you like to fit your preferences. Okay, make up 2 matching panels for your size, and remember, if you add length, to make them both the same size. When your 2 panels are complete, it's time to sew it. You're going to lay them together with the right sides touching so that you'll be working on the wrong side. First, start with seaming the shoulders, and then you can try on the neckline and make sure it's fitting you nicely how you like. Then you'll seam the sides from the bottom up and leaving the armholes open. Let's do it now. So when we seam, you want to put your right sides together and so that you're working on the wrong side. So this is double crochet, so both sides really look almost exactly the same, so it doesn't really matter. But if you want to do it, the technical right side I'm calling in the pattern is row 1. So here's my chain start. So I made a chain and I worked back into it. So this is the end of row 1, and that should help you see that this is the right side. So you can, that's another good use for stitch markers. You just put a little stitch marker on the front, and then you know your right side. It's not very complicated in this pattern, but for some it may matter more. Okay, so I have my second panel here, and I'm going to do the same thing. Find my right side, and now instead of matching these up, they're opposite because I want my right side down so that my right sides are touching when you seam. So this is the wrong side. I'm going to sew these together on the wrong side, and then when I turn it inside out, both the right sides will be showing. Okay, so placing your 2 panels, right sides together, like so. Okay, we'll start by seaming the shoulders. For extra small, you want to seam together at the shoulder for 3 inches, small 3.5, medium 4.5, large 5, extra large 6, 2X 7.5, 3X 8.5, 4X 9 inches, and 5X 10 inches. Matching these up, going here, I'm going to go in under one loop here, and then I'm going to go back under both stitches. So I'm going under both loops here and then both loops on that one. This is just something I do for my first stitch. Sorry, I knocked my camera. To kind of make it a little bit more secure because our ends. Okay, so again, our stitches are going to be opposites here. That helps us see and know that they are that we've got our panel set up correctly. Okay, so from here you're going to seam one shoulder for the width for your size, and again you're wanting to do it on both edges for both shoulders. So if you're extra small, you're doing 3 inches on the right shoulder and 3 inches on the left shoulder, and you're going to leave an opening of 10 inches for your boat neck. And each size is a little different. Your boat neck should be about 10 to 12 inches, and then your shoulders are going to vary as well for the size. The shoulder widths are 3 to 10 depending on your size. So just seam up on one side and then you finish off and seam up on the other shoulder side. Okay, just like we started, we're going to do a locking stitch on our last shoulder stitch where we go up and over and back into the same stitch. Then we'll cut that tail and weave it in there. The inside of your seam looks like this, and this is the outside. That's why we're working on the wrong side. That's going to be our neckline we leave open, again 10 to 12 inches, and then you're going to repeat and seam on your second shoulder in the same way. After you try it on, now it's time to measure and mark your armholes. You're going to measure from the top of the shoulder down. For extra small, 6.5 inches, small 7, medium 7.5, large 8, extra large 8.5, 2x 9 inches, 3x 9.5, 4x 10 inches, and 5x 10.5. Repeat on the other side and make sure you count and mark the same row for both sides. So you're going to measure down from the top of the shoulder down to your size measurement. So it's like 6.5, 7, up to 10, 10.5. Okay, you can clip it together like I've done here. You want to make sure that you have the same row because yarn stretches, our tension kind of changes. So I could even get a little bit different measurement if I measured my 2 as far as row count. So we want to measure on both, but then make sure you also do the row count. So for this, I believe it's at row 20 here, so we want to make sure we're also in row 20 here. Anyway, you can also adjust the armhole. If you know you want one that's a little bit tighter or a lot looser, then you can adjust that to your liking, and that's something you can check just by trying it on and clipping it together. Okay, it's time to seam the sides. You're going to work on the wrong side and sew together from the bottom to where you marked and leave those armholes open. So just thread your yarn needle with a long piece of yarn, and we'll do it together now. And our yarn needle. Again, if the seaming is not your thing, you can just slip stitch these sides the same way. Okay. This is a long seam. All right, so we've matched up on our right side rows, and we know we're correct because we have one tail here and not a tail there. The other one's on the other side. So we're just going to match up our row for row 1 and row 1, and make sure they're matched up. And we'll keep checking as we go. Some tips, again, with the stitch markers, like every 5 rows or something, you can clip them together to make sure you're staying on. I like to just visually check because it makes me slow down and really pay attention to it. All right, so I'm going in here. I'm going to go under 2 loops and under 2 loops. We're working into the side of stitches. For side construction seams that aren't visible, I want to go under 2 loops so that they are strong. Likewise, if you need help estimating how much yarn you need for your side seam, I usually suggest about double. So if this measures, 15 inches, then you'll need 30 inches of yarn. And that should be plenty, more than plenty. And as you do more seaming, you'll know how much. And the thing about having too much is then I have to pull all this through. So I've got my long tail so that I don't pull it all the way through and unravel my seam. And then I am going to lock my stitch, so I'm going back into the exact same spot here that my first is through. Okay, there we go. And we're pulling that all the way through, and then that kind of gives it a lock. Now if I pulled really hard, yes, it would pull through. And then I have to weave this end in very nicely. Okay, all right, so our sides, this is, I guess, what we call the hard part, but really once you get a rhythm down, it's not hard at all. But it's not like working the neckline where you have the stitches to work into. You're just looking at the side here. So if my sides look different than yours, it may be because I used a different chain 3 alternative and you used chain 3s, but the principle's still the same. Go under 2 loops on both sides of your fabric to join them. Okay, so that was the bottom of row 1. Oh, that's this. So I've got row 1 and 2 here, row 1 and 2 here, and I can even see that my tension was looser on one panel than the other, which is pretty normal. We tend to loosen up as we work. Okay, so I'm gripping my 2 there. All right, so I'm going to come, sorry, I have to have the camera so close so you can see. So I'm going under these 2 loops and those 2 loops across on the other. And then moving up to the next, we kind of have to go up to this part here. Get under 2 loops and then go down that way to those 2 loops. So again, just checking that these are my 2. This is the top of my second row. There we go. Okay, so now this is row 3 and 4, row 3 and 4, matching those up. So I'm just constantly checking to make sure. Where's my end? This is a really long piece. Okay, so that was 3 and 4, and that is 2, 4. So I'm already getting on row 5 here. So I got to really make sure these stay matched up. This side is looser, I can see. So another, oops, I went down too many there. Another way to know if you're doing it right is if they match up, you're doing it wrong. Again, it has to do with being on the right side, wrong side, end of the row stuff. So sometimes it's like, oh, this is working out, it's going smooth, and partly it's because we've misaligned our stitches. 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. Good. Okay, so this is just, you just keep doing this. You'll get a feel for it. You'll know what you're looking at. If you want to pin them together every so often to make sure that you don't just get off and start sewing, then you can do that and keep yourself on. That's the inside seam there and the outside seam. So you can see how our pattern continues, so we want to make sure we keep them close together. And if you're checking every so often and get off, you can just undo it a little bit and keep going. Okay, so I'm going to seam up here off camera, and then I will finish here at the armhole and show you how that's done. And then we'll repeat on the other side. Last one here, and in the same way we started, I'm going to lock that last one, just going back through the same spot there. And then I will cut this and weave that in. This is the inside seam, sleeve armhole, and then when we turn it right side out, that's how it looks. Okay, so now just repeat that on the other side. Seam from the bottom up and leave your specific sizes armhole depth open there. Okay, we're on to finishing. We're almost done. You're going to join on any stitch of the neckline. I usually join at the side shoulder before or after the seam, or along the back, excuse me. And then you can start with a chain 1, single crochet in that same stitch, and in each stitch around, then you're going to join back to your first single crochet with a slip stitch, cut the yarn, and weave that in really well. And then once I get over here, I'm just going straight into stitches. And it's pretty simple. And then once I get back around my neck to the other seam edge row side, I'll do it the same way. And then I'll slip stitch around to join. So I'm going to finish that off camera, and I will stop when I get back around here so I can show you how we finish up there. And then we'll move on to seaming the sides until it came together. So we will slip stitch to the first one. There we go. Okay, so our neckline is done. All right, on to our last bit of finishing. We're going to single crochet around the armholes. So you'll join to any stitch. Again, I prefer to do it down close to the seam, either right before or right after the seam, with a slip stitch, chain 1, and then single crochet around. And then you'll join back to the first single crochet with the slip stitch, cut your yarn, and weave in your ends. Repeat that on both sides, and you are done. I hope you found this helpful. Remember, the full written pattern in all sizes is on my website, so feel free to check that out. I'm over at ChristaCoDesign.com, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment or send me an email. I'm here to help. Thanks for watching.